Oh, hello. Hey, hold on, everybody. Let me just put these down real quick. Hi. Sorry, don't mind me. I was just out doing some shopping. For what? What do you think? Magic cards. That's what all of those were. They were magic cards. What a loud noise that was. I didn't really plan for that. My dog is barking now. Anyway, I bought magic cards. All of those cards just fell out of that bag. $5. Can you believe it? You shouldn't. Still honestly not sure that joke worked as well as I wanted it to. And now I'm just staring at a pile of magic cards on my floor I have to clean up. But anyway, welcome to the video where I spend $5 on a set. What just came out, and we see what the prices are like and what cool stuff we can get for the price of a booster pack instead of buying booster packs, because what kind of weirdo buys booster packs? You got to buy singles. That's the kind of the whole point of the thing. We're going to spend about what we would spend on a booster pack, and we're going to get all the singles we want. Except for Vein Ripper and War Leader's Call. I didn't get either one of those, but one day. One day. But I can't complain too much. I mean, I guess that's the whole point of this series, is that you'd be surprised what you could get for $5. I always am, and this time was no different. We got a lot of good stuff, but let me quickly blaze through the 2 rules for this competition. I know you don't care, but just in case you're new to this thing, I got 2 rules set up for myself, and they're fairly simple. I can spend $5.25 maximum on this order. However, rule number 2, once I hit $5, I have to stop ordering cards. That's it. What did I get? Now, first of all, there were 5 cards that I targeted specifically because I knew they were in our price range, and I wanted them really bad. And the first one that I went after was Case of the Uneaten Feast, which we got a copy of for like 67 cents. It's not a bad deal. Now, I have a deck this slots directly into the day it comes in the mail. Can you guess which one it is? I have an Ellis Ilcore Commander deck. Did you know that? Or again, is this your first video with the channel? I talk about it too much? I think some would say. I would say I probably need to stop. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be talking a good bit about what Commander decks I'm building and the cubes and stuff that I'm doing, because those are the big reasons I order paper cards. And in this case, that's definitely the truth. This goes along with all of the Johnny's Welcomes and Soul Ward and Soul Attendant, Lunarch Veterans. This is like the 8th, one drop gain life thing that you can play in your Ellis Ilcore deck. And mine is already pretty life gain forward, so I welcome this card. But not just for the life gain. Obviously, the solve state on this is great in a deck that wants to sack creatures, whether you want to play them because you sacked them. So maybe you want them back on the table. That just kind of makes sense. But in Aristocrats, you're going to have a lot of turns where you sack all those guys and then sack your case and then play them all the same turn and then just sack them again. And then everybody dies. It's usually what you want to be the end result of that. So this works really well on a couple of different levels in Aristocrats decks, like 2 or 3 different levels, really. There's a bunch of this new enchantment type in the set, these cases, but this is really the only one that I was immediately excited about for paper play. So had to get a copy of this first and foremost. And honestly, I felt like the price was pretty fair, but there was a second card that I wanted to pick up more than any other cards from this set, because I wanted to build a Commander deck with it, honestly, and that is Judith, Carnage Connoisseur, which we got for just over $1. $1.08 to be exact. Now, there's some places that are selling this for like 85 to 95 cents right now, so it's not like I got the best price in the world, but did I get a price I was willing to pay? Absolutely. I figured I'd pay around $1 for Judith almost no matter when I got her, so I'm happy to pay this price for a card that will hopefully bring me a lot of Commander happiness in the coming year or two. But I just tried to play her on Brawl the other night, and it turns out the 5-mana commanders are just kind of bad even in Brawl, so I'm a little nervous about actually building a deck around this lady, but obviously there's a ton of amazing ideas with her. The most evil and obvious of all those plans is to play a bunch of effects like In the Festivities and stuff like them, because it turns out there's like 100 of these in Magic at this point that are like 1 or 2 mana to just ping all of your opponent's creatures. And with a Judy on the table, that basically ends up being a one-sided Wrath. So I guess you do the math on that. But she also works really well with these like black effects that tend to be 1 or 2 mana and that save a creature. Sometimes they put the creature back onto the table after it dies, stuff like Not Dead After All, which is a great name for a Magic card. It's only a single mana, and they're going to target your Judith the moment you play her. You're probably not going to keep your Judith out. At least those are the lessons I've been learning so far, trying to mess around with this card in singleton formats. And so you have to just keep an open mana, play Not Dead After All, and then you get your Judith back. It kind of counters their spell, and you get an Imp. Pretty sweet, and I think it'll work well in Commander at large too. So there's a couple of really sweet cards and strategies you can play alongside Judith, but she just seems like a really fun card, especially in these like Aristocrats decks where you can sacrifice the Imps and hit the opponent's face with them. So I'm really hoping that we have some great times together, and I'm more than willing to pay $1 for those times. Now, the next card that I was specifically seeking out here was Tesa, Opulent Oligarch. Because again, I like aristocrats. And like we just got an amazing dude for aristocrats, Bartolome, in the last set that we can sacrifice artifacts to. So he seems to have a neat little synergy with Tesa, right? So if I ever build like a standard aristocrats deck in the next year or so, I'm well on my way now. I got a Bartolome and a Market Gnome in the last set, a couple of other things. I got the Tesa in this set, the case. So like I could build a singleton standard aristocrats deck. I'm going to try to make that work at like an F&M, but either way. As far as singleton stuff, my commander deck is like really shaping up, although I'm still not really sure what I'm going to take out for Tesa over here, but something needs to come out because I at least want to try this card out a few times. In standard, I've already had the joy of being able to crack a few clue tokens for free with a Bard or something and get 1/1s out of those, which is always... God, it feels good. It feels good to be able to do it on your opponent's turn, too, and like that gives you something to sacrifice. So you sack the clue to the Bard, and you get the 1/1 flyer, and you sacrifice that to the Bard, and it feels so good. Chuck Mangione, just, it's a really, really sweet card, but doesn't always do something the turn it comes into play, at least in standard, right? I feel like that'll be a little bit easier to engineer in commander, which is why I'm even more excited about it in that format. And getting it for 39 cents, I felt like was a good deal. This card could go down to a quarter 2 weeks from now, and I will still feel like I got the price I'm willing to pay for this card. Now, the next card I went directly after was Homicide Investigator, but they didn't have it. I couldn't find it. So more on that later. Next, I got a Snarling Gorehound. I also want to try this out in like every commander deck I have that has swamps in it, which is like 3 of them. How many commander decks do I have? 3. But yeah, Dina, old school Judith from Ravnica, and then also Ellis Ilcor. So I've got 3 different commander decks, all of which have a bunch of small dudes coming into play, and all of which would like to fix their draws and put stuff in their yard sometimes. So like Gorehound looks incredible in commander as a way to get started. And even if you end up playing this because you draw it on like turn 5 or 6 or whatever, you're still going to get some value out of it in the course of the game. So I just really like Gorehound. It's just, in terms of that line of text, is that not worth a mana to you? Commander players, is that line of text not worth a... Come on. 1 mana and a slot in your deck. And I know the slot in your deck is actually kind of a big deal, but that's a pretty powerful line of text to start the game with, potentially. And it was only 20 cents. I actually feel like if they don't like reprint this in Commander product, that could well go up over the years. But 20 cents I was willing to pay, especially for a foil. Even given that foils tend to actually, in a lot of cases, be less expensive than non-foils in this day and age. It's kind of weird. Everybody hates foils. They curl, but one way or the other, I'll take a foil Snarling Gorehound if you guys don't want it. I was really excited to get this thing, but then I paid 93 cents for a deadly Coverup. That's too much. I overpaid for this card, and I knew I was overpaying for it at the time, but the things we do to get that free shipping after $5. One way or the other, I knew I wanted this card for a whole bunch of reasons. You know, I might try it out in various swampy commander decks. I feel like it's not necessarily an upgrade or even, for that matter, a downgrade to a card like Damnation. It does cost more mana than Damnation, but would you rather pay however much a Damnation costs in money at this point, or would you just rather pay like 45 cents? I paid twice that, but would you rather pay like 45 cents for a deadly Coverup? I think it's going to be a better deal a lot of the time for your wallet. So, and it's going to be functionally the same like 90% of the time too. So whatever. I just think Deadly Coverup's a sweet card, not only to have access to for your black commander decks, but also for your cube. In case you don't remember, I have a mono black cube that I still play out of every now and again, in case you didn't see that video. It's like my favorite cube video that I've ever done, so I'll leave a link in the description. Please go watch that. It's a good, I really, really enjoyed putting together Mono Black Cube, but I'm still tweaking it, and this goes directly into that thing, man. It's a really, really cool card, and a nice unconditional sweeper. And then I picked up and analyzed the Pollen at 55 cents, which is pretty much where the card has stayed steady at price-wise for the last like week or so since release. I mean, it hasn't gone up, gone down. A lot of these cards have experienced some kind of movement, but not really. Not since release, not analyzed. It's sticking around 50 cents, and I can see why. It's a pretty solid card. It's a lay of the land when you need a lay of the land. And it's a, you know, creature tutor or whatever, whenever you need that later on in the game. This is slotting into the mono green cube, as Twitter picked the next mono-colored cube that we're working on, and it turns out it's green. So I've been stacking together some cards every now and again for the mono green cube. I hope to present it sometime in late spring, early summer, something like that. So I'm getting some stuff together for it, and this was definitely a choice for that. But until I get that cube ready, it can totally go in my Dina Commander deck. I actually think it's kind of sweet in my Dina Commander deck. Puts a whole lot of cards in its graveyard, and also wants to search for very specific creatures and stuff like that. So Analyze might be really good there until we do the mono green cube video. So a couple of places I can put this card, that's worth a couple of quarters. Speaking of the mono green cube, by the way, while I was at it, I went ahead and picked up a People of the Woods But in this set, People of the Woods, it's called Flourishing Bonkin. You see, it's the same card, just better. It's better in every way than a People of the Woods, which is really sad because I like People of the Woods, and I wanted to represent the dark in the mono green cube, but now I have to probably Gia's Touch or Gaia's Touch is what I have to do instead. Anyway, I'm getting way ahead of myself in terms of like content. Why did I buy a Flourishing Bonkin or Bloomkin? Whatever. This is a good card. I've said it like a million times in the preseason, but I actually think this is way better than a lot of people think it is. And I've been seeing it show up in your mono green decks in the arena. I'm liking it. I'm proud of my boy. I knew he was going to be worth something. And it turns out that like a 2-mana 4/4 or 5/5 is usually worth something. So I've never seen anybody so far in the arena actually use the ramp mode on this, but that's because that's not what the card does. Card doesn't just imagine that's text isn't there. It's like 1 out of every 30 games you do that. But mostly this is a 2-mana 2/2 and then a 3/3 and then a 4/4 and then a 5/5 and you win the game. So good card. And I think it's going to do some work in mono green cube. It's worth 21 cents. Anyway, this is where the sad story about Homicide Investigator, what a sentence, earlier comes back around because, I realized that they actually did have a Homicide Investigator. It just wasn't the normal version of the card. They did have the normal version of the card. I found that out later, but they were stocking it for like $5, maybe because they were actually out of it and they were making the price really high. Sellers do that sometimes. They make the price really high on a thing they expect to have back in stock very soon because they don't want to go through the trouble of taking it out of stock. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. But either way, what I did find was the dossier version or whatever it's called. I don't know what they're calling that. The file version, the detective file version of Homicide Investigator, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. I guess they would keep tabs on their own guys, but this was only 25 cents. This card's only 25 cents, and it goes in my Commander deck. Again, I think that, what is this? I think the LSO Core Commander deck, like having another dimension and allowing to draw some cards from time to time. Earlier when I said like, oh, you get clues off Tesa, you sack them to Bart. I mostly talked about sacking the clues, but you can also just draw cards off of them, which is really, really good. It's so good in any Orzhov deck because that deck, Aristocrats basically always needs more ways to draw cards. So pretty sweet to have Homicide Investigator. I know it only triggers once a turn, but I still want to try it out in Commander because once a turn basically gives you 4 clues every turn cycle, which should be more than enough. Jeez. And then I got a breakout. This is 20 cents for this card. It is apparently version B of the card. From what I understand, that means that it's got like a white spot on it where it's supposed to be a spot that's painted some other color, but instead it's white. I don't really care. I just wanted to copy a breakout. I thought it was really sweet. I'm always looking for weird ways to fill my Gruul slots in my cubes and stuff. I've used a Tarkus command for like 2 years at this point. It's like an interesting way to fill Gruul slots that doesn't feel like a bad card or it's too one-dimensional but also feels Gruul. And here we have a card that I think fits all of those same metrics. It allows you to do interesting stuff, make like combo decks based around specific creatures that you drafted and stuff like that, get those creatures more reliably and feel like a Gruul card without just being a thing that smashes people in the teeth, which I like that. I like that about cards like this. So not only do I want to try it in cube in my Gruul slots, but I also think it might have a spot in a Commander deck from time to time if I ever make anything that's red and green. That's only slightly marred by the fact this card probably isn't that good in Commander, but I still want to try stuff out. Now, next I got a foil. It's just not special anymore. Sharp-Eyed Rookie. This is the last card that I specifically sought out when I started this order, but I didn't see it at first. I didn't see it in the shop. But at this point, I was getting down to the wire, and I needed to find like either a few inexpensive cards to fill out the order, or one 50-cent card and like a 20-cent card. And it turns out they had Sharp-Eyed Rookie for like 50 cents. And I was like, yes, I'm going directly into the mono green cube. This is a really, really sweet green 2-drop for cube decks and possibly Commander decks for what that's worth. This could be really close to like a Tireless Tracker or something. But at the very least in cube, I think this is kind of one of the, in some ways, hear me out. Hear me out. Kind of a controversial statement. I think this is actually one of the better 2-drops that you have access to for a green cube. Or for green in cube, no matter what. Even if it's not a mono green cube, I think this is actually, if you've only got like 10 slots for 2-drops in your cube in green or whatever, I think you might want to consider this. I think it's actually really flexible, gets played in a bunch of different decks, doesn't have to be in strictly aggressive decks, can be in mid-range decks too, right? Get some card draw for a color that doesn't usually get reliable card draw. I'm really excited about playing this card specifically in Cube and seeing how it works. You don't have to play it around a bunch of other fatties. Just play other creatures in your deck and this should proc 2 or 3 times. And if it only ever gives you like 2 clues, you're kind of happy about that in a slower format, right? Like Cube, for instance, depending on the strength of your cube. But even if your cube is fairly powered, I think this dude is still going to do a lot of work for you. So again, haven't really gotten to play with a card yet because I haven't gotten in the mail yet, but still, I am excited about this one. I think it's got a lot to do. We had like 15 cents left in the order, something like that. We really didn't have much left. So I needed to find a common or an uncommon that I wanted to mess around with. And points if it's kind of janky and stupid and I'll never actually play with it, right? So with all that in mind, I got a Whsp Drinker vampire over here. You even know what this card is? It's like a 4-mana dude, and when small guys come in the table, it drains your opponent. It's actually a really, really sweet ability and exactly the kind of thing that attracts me to a Magic card. Also, it's Orzhov, which helps a lot in my book. I've already said, in my Ellis decks and stuff, I've got, you know, well, my Ellis deck, I've got a lot of small fry boys, not to mention tokens and stuff like that. So anytime those come into play, I get a drain. You know, 4 mana is a lot to get this thing into play in the first place, but sort of Corpse Knight, functionally Corpse Knight copy number 2 in my Orzhov deck, you know. I'll take that, I think. At least I'll try it. You know, it's probably worth 20 cents for me to try that out. Altogether, the order was $5.18 for 11 Magic cards, all of which I have some sort of use for. And by the way, in case you don't believe me, I've got it scrolling on screen right now. This is my cart. And some people don't want to believe that I'm actually ordering these cards. So here's my order history on TCG Player. There it is right there. I ordered these cards. As a matter of fact, not only that, but I also ordered $5 worth of Ravnica Remastered cards. I just never actually put that video out. I'm still thinking about doing it, but it's probably not the right time anymore. Either way, there's my Ravnica Remastered order in case you're interested. I also got an Emerald Medallion recently. It was damaged. It was only like $5. I felt like that was a good deal. I've already got that in the mail. I love it. It's just like one corner's bin. Totally great deal for an Emerald Medallion. You may also see there that I ordered these cards on February the 14th. That's because these were part of my Valentine's Day present from Brittany, my wife. But I also got another Valentine's Day present. These awesome stickers. You see these stickers that she made me? You guys, you see that? Mox Pearl right there? Do you see this awesome Mox Ruby right there that she made me? Do you see this awesome Mox Emerald? That's right. She gave me an entire set of Moxen for Valentine's Day, only in sticker form. I said I wanted a set of Moxen, foil Moxen specifically, for Valentine's Day, and this is what I got, which that's fine. That's exactly what I wanted. So awesome. My wife makes awesome stickers. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. Just let me know how you would spend $5 on this set. Personally, I'm just letting you know that Vein Drinker, or whatever it's called, Vein Ripper, I was thinking about Whsp Drinker Vampire. The Vein Ripper is still like $8 for the normal printing of the card, but the file version, like the dossier looking version, has gone down to right at $5. So I'm pretty sure I'm about to snap up a copy of that. I actually think that the dossier, like alternate art, would be good for alternate art. Does that make any sense? For like card alters. I think that like that'd be a good base for altering a card. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling at this point. Just let me know how you would spend money on this set if you were going to spend money on the set. If there's any cards that you're excited about buying for your commander decks, your cube, your other decks, whatever, you know. Sometimes you just want to own a card because you think it's cool, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if there's any of that in this set, let me know down there. You can also like the video if you liked the video. Even if you didn't, maybe you push the thumbs up. That'd be nice. Put me in more recommended feeds. That'd be a huge favor. But you can also sub to the channel if you're into it. We're trying to make it to 1 million subs before any other Magic the Gathering channel. It's a bit of an uphill climb. We've got like 870,000 subs left to go, but we can do it. I believe in all of us. We can make it together. Let's get this thing going. We get the movement started. Just sub if you haven't done it yet. It would mean a lot to me. And aside from that, thank today's sponsor, which is not like a company or anything. It's just Michael Z, the patron of the day. Don't worry, Mike. I got your message. Just send me your deck and I will doctor it sometime before Friday of next week. Anyway, just thank Mike down there in the comment section, Michael Z, for bringing this video to you as the patron of the day. I really couldn't do it without Patreon. Thank you all members of Patreon. And if you're considering being a Patreon member, I appreciate that. I'll leave a link down in the description for you. But now I guess I got to clean up all these cards from the beginning of the video. It's mostly basic lands and stuff. Don't worry. But yeah, I got to, my office is a freaking mess. It's really, I don't know how I work in here. It's bad. So should probably clean that up, but won't. Anyway, I at least got to edit this video, right? If I do nothing else, I should edit and upload this video. So I'm going to do that. See you guys later. Probably. Our next video is going to be the best new decks in Standard since MKM came out. And actually, there's a lot. MKM did a lot to Standard, so you might want to check that one out. Again, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. But for now, that's basically Allski Kowalski, so I'm going to get out of your hair. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.